Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia. I'm coming to you from the UK. Today is May 6th, 2023, and I'm so happy you're joining me today to talk about some knitting, some yarn, some knitting plans, just knitting related stuff. If you are coming back, thank you so much for being a regular viewer of this podcast. And if you are watching for the very first time, hiya, nice to meet you. I hope you enjoy this podcast. I did reintroduce myself a couple of episodes ago, I think maybe 2 episodes ago. There's a couple of recent ones as I've just sort of recently gotten back into podcasting, so you can always sort of skip back and get caught up with what's been happening, which is essentially just knitting. I mean, it's not rocket science, it is just knitting. Anyways, as some of you may know, we are going on holiday very soon. In fact, we are going on holiday tomorrow. And I have been on a race and on a mission to finish as many works in progress as possible because I do want to just take new projects to Portugal. I don't really take many whips when we go away because I knit quite quickly and there's only so much space for yarn that I have in my suitcase, so I'd rather have lots of new projects ready to go. So I've been trying to just finish all the whips that I have. Besides, I mean, I have a million blankets. I'm not gonna finish blankets. Blankets don't count as whips. Yeah. So, elephant in the room, I have finished my Lento number 3. And I'm already sort of dying in it because it is really, really warm. So if you haven't heard of the Lento, it's a pattern by Jonna Hietala. It is basically just a very simple top-down raglan at a very loose gauge. So the idea is that you create a very sort of loose, almost gapey fabric, which makes it really light, really sort of like drapey, sweatshirty, and it's really handy because it doesn't use very much yarn. You can knit it up really quickly. And yeah, I've knit 3 of them. I'm already planning another one. Although I will admit number 2 was a fail, so this is basically my second sort of proper finished Lento that I really love. For this one, I did eyelet increases rather than the regular increases in the pattern, which are a little bit annoying, and they have a mistake in it. Spoiler alert. So I think for my first one, I knit the increases to pattern. For the second one, I did make one left and make one right. And for this one, I just did yarn overs. And I actually quite like it. I think it looks quite cute. And the yarn that I use for this is a Suri alpaca held together with some Pickles pure wool. So Pickles is a Norwegian yarn store that has their own yarn lines. And I picked this up in 2019. So this was old stash. I've used it at most of it. I only used about 150 grams out of the 200 grams of the pure wool and very little mohair. Sorry, I don't know how many bowls, but it's not very much. Yeah, so this is done, and honestly, I have been wearing this all week. This has just been exactly what I wanted it to be. It's really easy to just throw on. As you can tell, I have a lot of positive ease. It's nice and drapey. It fits perfectly well. It does have long sleeves. I'm just a person who will forever pull up their sleeves. It's just what I do. And I've been wearing this. It's not cropped, but it's also not very long. Can you see? So I've just been wearing it with like a light pair of jeans, and I actually really like the look. I'm really, really happy with it. I'm not always comfortable with cropped stuff. Sometimes it looks weird because I'm not really the sort of like tailored dresses person. But this one has worked really well, and I am happy it is done. It's stupid that I didn't finish it for so long. I just basically didn't look at it for at least 10 days, and then I picked it back up, and I only had half a sleeve to knit, so I finished it in maybe like half an hour. But it is finished and blocked and all ready now. It's only really, really warm because this one is using Suri alpaca rather than mohair. So I don't know how much more wear I'm gonna get out of this until autumn, but I love it. I'm just gonna keep wearing it whenever it gets chilly because it looks quite like loose and airy, but it is quite a warm sweater. Alright, I've moved my camera slightly because the lighting is a bit weird today. I have also finished this pair of socks. These are stripy socks using stray cat yarns in possibly the colorway Macarena. Basically it was her one and only club colorway until before that club stopped. The mini skein that I use for the cuffs and heel came with a set, and it's basically a 3x1 ribbed sock with a 2x2 cuff. Again, all the details on all of my projects will be on Ravelry, which I have linked below. If you cannot access Ravelry, please do get in touch, because I know it is not accessible for everyone. Yeah, so these are done. I'm just happy to have these finished. I've really enjoyed the yarn, but I don't know, for some reason these kind of dragged on a bit. So now they're all finished, and that is one less whip on the whip pile. And then, big drum roll, I have also finally finished this monster, which is my half and half wrap number 4, I think. So you may remember I've been knitting on this for ages and ages. I think I cast it on before we moved in. So we moved in at the end of February. I think I casted this on in January. And this thing, you guys, it is huge. I can't even show you. This is my 4th half and half wrap, which is a free pattern by Pearl Soho. First 3 turned out a normal-ish size. I mean, they are big. I think the larger size is possibly supposed to be, is it supposed to be 1 meter 10 across? Something like that. This one is 1 meter 65 by 165. So if you take like the diagonal, it's even wider than that. It is absolutely humongous. And this also explains why I ran out of yarn, because my gauge is 18 stitches, which I think the original is supposed to be maybe 21, 22. It's quite a big difference, so this definitely explains why I ran out of yarn, which is why I have inserted this square of pink. So if I unfold it, you can kind of see what I mean. So it has a pink color pop, which I think actually works quite nicely. And I had to block this basically folded up because it was just so big, and I just didn't have a non-toddler accessible space big enough to block this lying flat. So you can kind of tell it's not perfectly blocked, but it is finished, and it is huge. I cannot get over how huge it is. I mean, my other ones are huge and I wear them as shawls all the time. They've actually been really, really handy. But this one may just be too big. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is going to turn into a blanket. This is the first one that I've made using the original yarn, which is Pearl Soho Linen Quill, in the colorways Pale Mushroom and Turmeric. And this one is just a Knit Picks palette in, I believe, Cosmopolitan. It's so lovely. There's nothing wrong with substituting yarn at all. Like, this yarn isn't super accessible, even though I found out you can just order it to the UK and there's no trouble with that either. But anyways, I've seen lots of really, really good substitutions for this pattern, but I just wanted to see what the fuss with the linen quill is all about. And it did block out really nicely. I really do like the fabric that it gave me. So yeah, this is done, and I'm making myself even warmer than I am already in my alpaca sweater. And I keep playing with my hair. Sorry about that. I'm gonna fix it and try to just leave it. So yeah, this is done. This took me so long. These last few rows, when you keep increasing, or like the rows just keep getting longer and longer and longer as you knit back. Oh, these last rows were killing me, but I'm so glad it's done. I did not run out of the second color. All good. I'm really happy to have this finished, and these colors just make me so happy. This is so bright and colorful, and I still think it works though. Like, I just love the color combination, and I'm very, very happy with it. I think that is it for my works in and for my finished objects. So for works in progress, I only have one pair of socks and blankets. So very quickly, this is my, actually I'm lying. I have a pair of socks, I have a sweater, and I have blankets. So just very quickly, this is the sock that I was already working on, I think last time, if not the time before. I haven't really been working on this too much. Possibly this is where I was last time, so I've just been knitting a little bit of stockinette here and there when my son would let me knit. But I haven't really focused on this because I wasn't really ever planning on finishing this before we go away. I'm still undecided if I'm going to take it on holiday because there is still a fair bit of knitting to do. This is just sock number 1, or if I'm just gonna keep it and knit on it when I get back. This is Gusto wool in their Echoes range. So this is somehow related to earth yarns. You may have heard of earth yarns. They have like a unique sock, which is a sort of self-strapping colorway. And somehow, I don't really know how it is connected, but they came out with this new yarn line called Gusto Wools. And this is the Echoes range, which is sort of like long gradients of color. So if I show you the one that I haven't started yet, you get 2 50-gram balls, or you get 2 50-gram cakes, which I have wound up very messily. But you can sort of see it progresses through a lot of different colors. And I think they're really fun. And I got them for like £13 for 100 grams, which I thought was really, really good. Oh yeah, here's the label. So yeah, this is what I am using, colorway 1512. Just a plain vanilla sock. I haven't decided if I'm going to just put in the heel as I go, or if I'm just going to knit a tube and then eventually do afterthought heels. We'll see how when we get to it. I'm definitely planning to make these sort of long socks, because obviously I want to have as much of the color progression as possible in the sock. So I have some time to decide whether I'm going to put in a shadow wrap heel or an afterthought heel once I'm done. And then I did tell you I have my sweater on the go, and I'm also quite close to finishing it. I mean, we are leaving tomorrow. Can I knit a fingering weight sleeve in a day? I could if I had time. I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough time. But this is quite close to being done as well. And this is the Anchors sweater by Petite Knit, version number 4. I've knit 3 of these before. 2 sweaters and 1 sleeveless sort of t-shirt style thing. And as you can tell, it's been scrunched up in the back, but I have finished the body. I have finished 1 full-length sleeve, and I have, well, sort of started on the second sleeve, maybe a quarter into the second sleeve. Yeah, and this has been quite fun to knit. The color is blowing out a little bit, but it's just glorious. It's like a glorious burgundy shade. And the yarn that I am using is Blacker Swan Falkland Islands wool from Swan Inlet Farm in their 4-ply range. So I think they have this in 4-ply and DK. Also, although their 4-ply is more, I think, of a sport weight really, it's 175 meters per 50 grams. So yeah, quite close to finishing this, which is really exciting. I want to come home and not have 15 million whips lying around, and either I finish it or it'll be a really, really quick whip to finish once we get back. And then last but not least, I have been working on my blanket. So you heard me gushing about the Prism blanket, also by Pearl Soho, last podcast. And no, I'm not sponsored by Pearl Soho or anyone really, anyone at all. I just really like, they have 3 patterns. I like their aesthetics, and it turns out I like the yarns. So I had started their Prism blanket, which is originally knit out of their pure wool. And once again, I'm using their, like, the suggested yarn. This never happens. It's called Good Wool, 100% Andean Highland wool. 383 yards per 100 grams, which I'm not good with yards, but this should make it about a sport to DK. I think they listed it as a DK to worsted because it is woolen spun and you could knit it to that gauge, but I think you could also knit it to a sport weight gauge. But that is just me. And all the colors that I'm using are listed on Ravelry, so I'm not going to bore everyone with color names. But are you ready for this? And can I do this without dropping stitches? Look! I have almost knit half the blanket. Can you see? So I think last time I had like 2 or 3 squares, and I've just been going on this blanket. Like, yeah, it's a bit insane. But I'm just really enjoying making these like half and half triangle squares and changing colors and seeing, like, look, it actually looks like a blanket. I'm so excited about this. And It's a really fun project. I talked about it in quite a bit of depth last week, so I'm not gonna bore you to death with it, but I am still really enjoying it. I think all the colors are working together really well. They have like a coloring in sheet that you can use to arrange your colors, and I mostly went with how they suggest you arrange your colors. I just switched like 2 or 3 squares around because I didn't want identical squares next to each other. And as you can possibly see here, it's basically like you always, like one triangle you increase while attaching it to the previous square. And then once I've reached my maximum amount of stitches, which in my case is 73 because my gauge is off again, I'm then going to in it this way, attaching it to this square and decreasing. So it's quite straightforward. I will say the instructions on how exactly, like which stitch to start like joining the corners are not 100% clear. They're fine, you can work it out. They could be a bit clearer, but they're absolutely fine, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the yarn. And once I finish this square, which I just started this morning, like 6:30 because my son was up, once I finish this square, I'll be 50% done. Unless I decide to make it bigger than it's supposed to be. I'm not quite sure. I have 2 skeins of each yarn, and after almost knitting 50% of the blanket, I still have a fair bit of all of my first balls of each color. So maybe I'll make it bigger, or maybe after like 15,000 squares I'll be done, who knows. I would also, to be fair, like to have leftovers of this and make like a striped sweater or something. I think that would be amazing. So yeah, we will see. Obviously I'm not taking a blanket on holiday, but I am loving it, and yeah, I am pushing through this. This might become my like quickest blanket I've knit. Who knows? I'm trying not to lose steam on it and just keep going because it is really enjoyable, and I think once I stop working on it, it'll be a bit harder to pick it up again because, again, you just need to know exactly which ridge you have to join all the colors, and it's nice once you're in the rhythm. Alright, that is it really for my works in progress. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm speeding through this. I hope I'm not. But I do have quite a lot of stuff on my mind and stuff going on today because I do need to pack for a trip for the entire family. Yeah. So talking about going away, I thought I would very quickly chat about what I'm planning to knit on holiday because I always think that's fun. Have I planned all of it out? No, I'm actually planning to pack all of my knitting after I finish recording this podcast. But I have been starting, and it sort of leads into works in progress as well, because one of the projects that I definitely want to knit in Portugal is I want to knit up this yarn, which is my first ever Fab Funky Fibers skein. This is a 50-gram ball of self-striping. It has a really old label. I wonder how old this is. Hey all you cats and kittens, Fab Funky Fibers. Don't know if that's a colorway name. I got this on a D-stash for very little money, so I just jumped on it. It's only 50 grams, so what I've decided to do is I've knit a toe. And I haven't done this before, but I think for the first time, just to maximize the amount of sock I can get out of this yarn, I've done the toe. I'm going to take this on the plane, and I'm just going to knit a massive tube. I'm just going to knit 50 grams of tube, and then I'll finish with another toe, and then once we get home, I'm going to turn the long tube into 2 pairs of socks and add afterthought heels and cuffs. The reason why I'm doing toes on each end is because my like the tightness of ribbing of the cuff, depending if you go cuff down or toe up, is quite different. I much prefer ribbing with a cuff down sort of cast on, but that would mean if I wanted both sorry, I just saw a spider in the background. If I wanted both socks to have the same ribbing, I would then have to knit a separate ribbing and graft it on, which sounds like a lot of work. So I've decided to start with the toes and then add the cuffs later. So I'll be having to bind off the cuffs, but at least they'll be the same. And yeah, I'm gonna do black heels and cuffs and toes just to maximize this yarn. I have no idea how it's going to stripe. It looks really interesting, doesn't it? I think there's like at least one speckled sort of stripe. So this should give me really, really great plain knitting, holiday knitting. Like, it'll be easy to take. I might not even take the contrasting yarn. The contrasting yarn that I'm using is some leftover alpaca sock yarn. I don't know by which company. It may be Rico. I used this to make a colorwork sweater. It was really lovely, but it really pills. So I've decided to use the leftovers just for socks, which it might pill as well, but I don't care on socks. And I think it should go quite nicely with this, and also it is using up stash. What I'm also planning on taking is I got myself as one of Jude of Stranded Dye Works surprise grab bags. I'm not sure entirely what they were called, but essentially for a reduced price he sold 3 skein surprise bundles of yarn, and I really wanted to support him. So I decided to grab a bundle and use it as a challenge to knit with different colors and just like knit with whatever I get rather than always going with my same sort of aesthetic. Do I have 3 skeins to show you? The first one I got, and I really like this. Obviously it looked much nicer when it was in a skein. This is a skein of DK merino in a one-of-a-kind colorway. It's really cool, and like I think it looks sort of like a galaxy, crazy, space themed something. I really like it. And my plan for this is to knit a toddler hat and either a matching hat for Kai, or I will pair it with mohair and knit myself a slightly more muted version for myself. I think I should have enough for both. Pretty sure it's gonna be son and daddy hats because both are really excited about this. So this is definitely going to be a holiday project. I'm definitely taking this on holiday. And then I also got this skein of Stranded, which this one I'm finding harder to use. This is beautiful. It's also a one-of-a-kind. It's 100% superwash merino Aran. And I never really know what to do with a skein of Aran, because I know I could do a cabled hat or something, but I don't like swatching, and cabled hats, I don't know, sometimes like small accessories annoy me. What I might do is I have this like super tiny cake of mohair. This is 50 mohair shades by Concept by Katja. This is 20 grams, and I just got this one day for like £2-3 because I was ordering something else and I wanted to get free shipping, so I thought, why not try this little like tiny ditty little thing of mohair. So I could actually make a really nice sort of slightly more muted hat for myself with this. So I am 90% convinced this is going to go on holiday with me. I caked all of these up already because, again, the idea was to knit through them rather than have them sit in stash. So yeah, this one is probably coming on holiday with me, and it's a beautiful color. It's really just the base that there's nothing wrong with it. I just find it a bit hard to, because I like garments, I like socks, I like a lot of things that you can't really do with Aran weight. And no, I'm not making Aran weight socks. Anyways, so those things are coming on holiday with me. And then maybe slightly related, I have this bag of yarn here, which is mostly yarn from stash, but I can also show you my 3rd skein of yarn from Jude of Stranded. This is the 3rd skein that I got, and I love this. This is a superwash merino cashmere and nylon high twist sock yarn. So I think they said that they sell, they put some like unusual bases in the kits, which I thought was really cool. So this is MCN, and again, I love the color. So both, like all 3 skeins are sort of out of my usual color wheel, but I really, really like them. So I might actually take this, I'm not sure, but the reason why I wanted to show you this is I saw on Instagram that a German sort of knitter on Instagram, I think they may also have a podcast, I'm not sure. What are they called? I'll put it on the screen. Anyways, what they are doing is they're having a challenge to use 1,000 grams or 1 kilo of sock yarn or sock weight yarn out of your stash. And there's no deadline, so you're not necessarily knitting against a deadline. The idea is just to grab 1,000 grams of yarn, sock yarn leftovers, sock yarn scraps, whatever. It just needs to be sort of the same, like 4-ply weight, and put it in a basket and just use it up. Not necessarily as a stash reduction tool, but obviously it can be. But just like to effectively use what you have. And I thought that was really, really clever. So I do have a basket, but I also have moths, so my yarn lives in these glamorous bags. So I have caked up and started up using 1,000 grams of yarn. This was one of my projects. I picked mostly sock yarns because I do think I'm mostly going to knit socks from it, but not necessarily. I mean, I could knit hats, I could knit accessories. I mean, you could do like a fingering weight sweater. I think though most of the yarns that I've picked are going to be sock yarns, and they're going to be socks. And the ones that need caking up, I have caked up, which I usually don't do. Usually I leave my yarn in skeins until I need them. But I've caked these up so that if I ever just want to cast on something new, and I may not have that much time, and sometimes I truly do not cast stuff on because figuring out what I want to knit and what yarn I want to use and what pattern is so exhausting. Sometimes I don't have the brain space for it. So now I have a whole bag of yarns that I can just, grab and go. So I am definitely planning on pulling some of this yarn to use for socks on holiday as well. So that's that. I actually have another set of the Gusto Wool Echoes yarn in here, which is another one of those like gradient cakes. I have some yarn for socks for Kai. I could also make sort of matching toddler socks because I will never use 100 grams for socks. I think the idea is to actually use like the entire skein rather than knit 10 pairs of socks and then have 30 odd grams of each yarn left over. I'm not sure if I'm gonna manage to knit through all the leftovers as well, but I'm going to try. So that's some of my thinking for holiday knitting. And then I need to bring a garment on holiday. So as I've sort of alluded to earlier, I think I may make another lentil sweater. Because the thing is, for a lentil sweater, you don't need to bring very much yarn. And again, suitcase space is very much limited. It's quick, it's simple. I can basically do it without thinking by now because I have knit 3 already. So I'm about 85% sure I'm going to pick some more yarn and knit another lentil because that'll be useful, it'll be quick, and if I finish it, I can even wear it. I mean, I might not finish it, but who knows? The only other option I see at the moment is to take another sort of fingering weight sweater because I do really like a nice simple fingering weight sweater as well. Like, I just think they're so wearable basically all year round. And before I was looking through my sweaters that I already have, and I picked up one that was knit from like a single strand of hedgehog fiber sock yarn, and it feels really nice. Every now and then I like a superwash merino sweater just because they're really like light and airy and drapey. So I'm gonna have a rummage through my stash. Again, 85% chance I'm going to just knit another lentil. Maybe 15% I'll make something else. But that is my thinking for the holidays. I want to knit a couple of hats because I'm enjoying knitting accessories at the moment. Just a couple of hats, maybe even dare I say it, Christmas knitting. I made tons of 1x1 ribbed hats for last Christmas. It was a big success. I love 1x1 ribbed hats. I may make some more. I'm going to be knitting socks and some kind of garment, unless I completely change my mind. I was looking at Stephen Westshaw's last night, and I would love to knit something colorful again. I would love to maybe do another vertices unite and just like throw two colors together as I go. So that is another option, but usually those ideas of mine sort of fail when it comes down to actually like finding the perfect yarn combination. So yeah, that is what I'm thinking. Obviously I have not decided, but that is where we are at. So basically that is it for my yarny content of this show. What else has been going on in my life? Like I said, we're going away tomorrow. I am packing. I also found moths in our closet last night, which, I mean, we are experienced with moths. We've had moth infestations a couple of times over the last 9 to 10 years. It just happens, especially always happens to me in this type of like mid-spring, because I think that is just the weather that all the moths come in, and we haven't been really careful. Usually I'm really good. Like all my yarn is in bags. Like everything is really safe. But obviously we've just moved, so we still have like boxes of stuff in our closet because our closet needs a carpenter, and our carpenter has been letting us down. We are now on carpenter number 2, who has got the flu, so we still don't have proper shelving. So I'm not super surprised. Luckily, most of my sweaters I had vacuum bagged 2 weeks ago, so they're fine. Actually, all of my knitwear is fine. Everything is fine. I think what they liked is just a little like fleecy thing that you put under the mattress, and we had that in our closet. Anyway, what that meant is we've just like sprayed everything. It's fine. We know how to deal with moths. All the sweaters, all the yarn, everything is fine. I found some more boxes of more sweaters of mine earlier when packing those, so I'm just waiting for the rain to stop so I can hang them out, like air them out, and then I will vacuum bag those as well. I've vacuum bagged all of my shawls for now because I don't need them in summer. I think I've left one of my half and half wraps out. And I'm sure there is some flying about our house somewhere, but most of my knitwear is now all bagged up, so it's all fine. No need to panic. I know lots of knitters panic when it comes to moths, and I have previously, but again, we've dealt with this every now and then. I've never had any yarn eaten, and I'm quite careful. Like a few weeks ago, I found one single moth behind this couch actually, and I literally went through my entire stash, which also was good because I then resorted everything, because originally when we moved in I just threw all the yarn in bags in the shelves without any order, whereas now I have my sock yarn over here, I have my rustic sweater quantities over there. Like it's all a bit more organized. And I checked all the bags, I checked all the Ziploc bags, I exchanged all of the ones that had at some point, you know, got little rips and tears and stuff. So I'm not overly worried. Yeah, it's just another thing to work on, and like it takes a lot of time to do all that crap. Anyways, yeah, besides that, it's just been craziness. I think I've never needed a holiday so much in my life. It's just been a very, very full-on year for us so far because my son started nursery, which has been quite tough. We bought a house, we moved in. Oh yeah, we have been painting our living room. I have somehow, I don't know how, convinced my husband to paint our living room a sort of blush pink. So when we originally bought the house, the owners, they had like put a lot of work in, but a lot of it wasn't our style. Like they proudly called it the Laura Ashley house, and I'm not a Laura Ashley person, and we had some very, very full-on Laura Ashley wallpaper going on. So we've spent the last 2 weeks like tearing down the wallpaper, and it took so much time to get like every little like last little bit off and preparing the walls. And now we've finally painted them. So well, Kai painted them and I looked after toddler. So now our living room is nice and like blush pink. We may also be painting the feature wall, which is now like a light green, and I would like it to be a sort of stormy grayish blue. But we've decided to now just stop painting because we're getting so stressed out with Kai working and having a toddler who's just clearly going through something. Also had surgery 2 weeks ago, and we were painting. It was just getting a bit too much, so we're taking a break. I'm really excited to go away, just like be away from any like house related things as well, because I found out when you own a house, there's always something that you should be doing, and then like we just end up like doing all these like random little jobs all the time. And once we're away, it'll just all be good. We don't have to do anything, and I am really excited. Anyways, I have waffled on long enough now, I think. I feel like I rushed through the knitting and then I just chatted to you, but hey, that's what you're here for, right? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had some quiet crafting time. Until I see you again, have a lovely couple of weeks. Have some shiny yarn and enjoy some lovely beverages, and stay healthy, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.